So, in some ways, the review that I'm going to be doing today is just as much for the original Metal Gear Solid as for the Twin Snakes. But I'm mostly reviewing the Twin Snakes because I've played this game before and I can't really review it and put it into words because this is quite possibly my favorite game of all time, outside of maybe Tomba and Metal Gear Solid 4. So it's easily within the top 3 games of all time. But this just comes off as a remake to one of my favorite games of all time, which is fine, and you know that can work. The Resident Evil remake was pretty good, but still, even in that case, I just don't really like it as much as the original. There are remakes that work and work better than the original, but you know those are few and far between. Usually they're remasters that kind of work out more like Spyro or something. But they didn't even really change any of the controls there. It was more that they just changed the graphics and the sound, and that was it. And it worked out great. But, you know, maybe that's all we need in this day and age. But that's a whole nother topic for a whole nother time. So, today I'm reviewing the Twin Snakes, which previously, in a previous video, I don't know if any of you saw it, but I called it shit. I called it a piece of shit. I was going on about how it's the worst thing ever because it just doesn't hold up to the original. And to some extent that's true, but I was being a little harsh on it back then because I was stupid. I didn't really I forgot kind of what the purpose of this remake was. You know, you put Metal Gear Solid 2 controls into Metal Gear Solid 1 and you put it on the Gamecube for some reason, which just was the awkward part for me. It's like the Z button on the Gamecube controller is just on the top and it's like this really stiff button and it's just you have to use that to aim and it's just not very intuitive in that sense. I don't really know what else they would have done. Otherwise, you'd have like a monster claw kind of grip thing. But I mean, you know, they did what they could. They didn't have all the buttons like the PlayStation 1 did. Although on PS2 they just used the well, that's why they did it, because they just used the top buttons, right, to aim and stuff. I don't remember. Was that on PS2 or did they do that with 4? It must have been the top. It's been a while. Anyway, so the Twin Snakes tries to take the entire structure of Metal Gear Solid 2 and put it into Metal Gear Solid 1, which works out in some ways and in other ways is pretty bad. But I don't really think it's the structure of the gameplay that made the Twin Snakes not hold up to the original Metal Gear Solid and not hold up to the stylings of Metal Gear Solid 2. So, because here's the thing. You take all of the level design from the first game and you put all these new controls in there, like you can shoot people in the head and you can shoot out cameras and stuff. And me not having done that before was kind of defeating the purpose of such a remake of the first Metal Gear Solid, if that makes sense. Like, the purpose was to add all this new stuff back to the old game, but that doesn't necessarily work so well when you're sitting here and you know the old game so well that it's like it's just awkward to even play a new version of the old game. But in some regard, that's also refreshing to play this new version of the old game because there's new little things everywhere, new little tweaks, and they switch some enemy placement. Like the only one that's coming to mind is the chamber right before Metal Gear. Instead of like 50 cameras there, there's only like 20 cameras there before, but instead of all those cameras, they put like 2 guards there, so it actually makes it more interesting in that as well. And without this new system of aiming and whatnot, in the original game, that would have been a really unfair advantage, is there's this guard on top, and then this guard patrolling the middle area. You could easily take out the guard patrolling the middle area, but how are you supposed to take out the guy on top? That wasn't like a concept that was introduced until Metal Gear Solid 2, because Metal Gear Solid 1, you're essentially playing this top-down game with 3D stylings around it. As soon as I got to Metal Gear Solid 2, this is a game that's like a I don't even know how to just. It's like you go into first-person shooter mode when you're ready to shoot and that kind of thing, but it's like a 3D game at that point. Metal Gear Solid 1 is kind of like, it is a 3D game, but also it's a 3D game from a top-down perspective. So it's like if they made Link to the Past 3D or something, you know, like Zelda, they put the camera view behind you, right? So it's like a third-person kind of thing, almost, in a sense. But like, you know, like the newer Zelda. So like when you're playing Link to the Past, it's top down. That's what Zelda always was until that point. Then you get to Ocarina of Time, and it's like well, it's 3D now. It's all different. They didn't do that with Metal Gear Solid. They did like a top-down sort of perspective. It was also 3D, sure, but like the stylings of it was of the old classic Metal Gear Solid games, or Metal Gear games, sorry, which nobody pretty much had played except for the NES one, maybe. And a lot of people probably thought that wasn't that great, at the time. Why is this here? Get that out of here. Okay, I didn't even realize this sitting in this little. Okay, but anyway, so yeah, so you take all this Metal Gear Solid 2 stuff, the aiming and all the first person, you put that in the Metal Gear Solid 1 engine, and it breaks things. I mean, not the engine, but like the level design, and it kind of breaks things, which is good and bad. For somebody like me who really appreciates the stealth and the all the good stuff about the first one, and just the level design in general and how well it was designed around all the enemies and stuff. It was almost lazy to just take, the Metal Gear Solid 2 engine with the Metal Gear Solid 1 level design. But how else were you going to do it if you're going to do that concept, Like that, it just breaks things a little bit, which is fine. I mean, it's a fun thing to play through if you've played the original game, because then you get this new experience of breaking the whole thing wide open and just shooting guys in the head, and it makes so many boss fights so much easier, like the Revolver Ocelot one, and but it makes that one more interesting in a sense. I mean, like before you were just kind of had to follow him and kind of do stuff like that, but now you gotta like tactically think where you can get a headshot, or like if you can even get a headshot, or that kind of thing. I mean, I wouldn't say there's this deep system behind that, because obviously it wasn't designed. This level design and these boss fights weren't designed for that. They were designed for a PS1 top-down game, which this is no longer, So, and in that sense, I mean, I guess this is fine for what it is, I mean, I like some of the new gameplay aspect, but it just breaks a lot of fights. Even Metal Gear, I don't know why that was easier technically. It was actually harder, but it was so much easier at the same time. The harder part was that there was like a million targets, and they were all like really big, so you had to like lock onto the specific target you wanted with your Stinger missile, which never was really a problem before, because it would only usually lock onto the radome, and that was it, or liquid there. But now it's different. Now there's like a million targets, and they're really big. But for some reason, it was still easier despite of my locking on problems. It was still easier. Maybe just because the control of Snake is more fluent when you're moving and stuff, so it's just like easier to dodge stuff, and you have your rolling and whatever. But I didn't use the roll in that fight. But it just, for some reason, it felt so much easier, which I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I like the original Rex fight better, probably, but this Rex fight is also pretty good. It's still good. It's functionally probably better, but I still like the original better. That's pretty much the whole thing in a nutshell. It's functionally a little bit better, but I still like the first one better, kind of thing, the original. But you get down to stuff like that. You get down to the fight with Liquid on top of Rex there at the end, I guess this is like full spoilers, by the way, for Metal Gear Solid 1, a game you probably should have played by now. So you're fighting Liquid on top of Rex, and I remember watching my friend do it, and, I mean, like, I can do the Liquid fight pretty easy on the PS1 version, but I know how tricky that can be. I remember having trouble with that back in the day. When my friend, when he played this game, it was his first time playing the game, so it's like I've played it obviously a lot more. This is like one of my favorite games. I've played this, dozens, if not, hundreds of times. I don't know. Probably not, maybe not that many, but I've definitely beaten the game at least like 50, 60, 70 times. I don't know, something like that. I'm getting close to 100, if anything. But, so, basically my point, okay, so on top of, when you're fighting Liquid on top of Rex there, in the original it's kind of hard to see, and the boundaries aren't necessarily very clear. I mean, they are clear, but it's harder to tell what you're doing in that fight. And so they just brighten the whole thing up, and you can see every little facet, and they make the area a little bit bigger so it's easier to maneuver and stuff. And it just breaks the fight. It makes it so easy. But is that a good thing or not? I guess that's up to the player, the Gray Fox fight, for instance, all the combat stuff, all where you're just punching and doing all that. That's a lot easier, It's just an easier fight because it is because it controls a little bit better. I think they just toned down the difficulty just a little bit. Also, I think they did that just a little bit because it felt a little too easy at times. But yeah, I mean, if you just want an easy romp through Metal Gear Solid, which I would argue isn't even that hard of a game to begin with, but if you want something fresh and new in terms of gameplay, great. I mean, this is your thing, and it's an interesting experience in that regard. But the problem comes in, and this is the main criticism of this whole game, is that I didn't really realize how... I mean, I knew, but, like, it takes a game like Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes, a full-on remake, to just really put it in perspective how much the movie and auditory experience of Metal Gear Solid is integral, crucial, absolutely bonkers necessary to the experience of the game. Let's start with the music. None of the original tracks are there. None of the original music is here. They play the Metal Gear Solid theme one time, and it feels really forced, and that's in the escape sequence, and that's it. And I'm stunned by that. They replaced it with okay music. It was okay. It was just generic, though. And I'm sitting here thinking, where's my duel, Metal Gear Solid 1, the boss theme? It was amazing. Where's the encounter thing? I think maybe that one was the same. I don't remember. That could have been the same. That might have been the only one that they actually kept. The best is yet to come. They only play it in the credits. They don't play it like when Meryl's talking in the one scene or like any of that. They just play like this generic Meryl theme or whatever. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So like it really takes a lot of the impact out of all these moments. And on top of that, the voice acting is not very good. Like, it's astounding how little I feel like the Naomi voice actress was trying this time around. Like, in the original game, you really feel Naomi and you feel her charisma and you feel it when she kind of, like betrays Snake and all this stuff. And you feel the emotion there behind her. And when she's like crying at the end and stuff, and it's just like, oh man, this is really, this is powerful. And in this game, she is phoning it in so hard. It is so bad. It is so bad. And to top that off, they take out the accent of Naomi and me. Like, I didn't even realize Naomi had an accent. She sounds like she does in Metal Gear Solid 4, and it's just so bad. It's so bad. It's, and she was fine in Metal Gear Solid 4. The thing is, she was so phoning it in Metal Gear Solid The Twin Snakes. It was so awful. Anytime she was on screen, I'm just like, she's not even trying right now. Mei Ling doesn't have her oh, it's not a snake, which I, like, okay, like, fucking, maybe these were considered, like, racist or, like, bad or something, but that's part of the charm of the original game, so they have, like, these terrible accents, and then, in this game, they don't even have them anymore, so she sounds like she does in Metal Gear Solid 4, it's just super stupid and disappointing. Colonel sounds like he does in Metal Gear Solid 2, which, if you play Metal Gear Solid 2, you know why that's super funny, because it's actually like a part of his character why he's so like wooden in that game. It's not that he's not trying, it's that there's a whole other meaning behind it, which is like really cool and powerful, but he just sounds just so generic here. To give him credit, alright, Colonel was one of the ones who, like, half the time his lines were pretty good, but the other half, they were just so phoned in. You could just tell. Like, okay, David Hayter, bless him, he was trying, He was one of the people who really wanted this game to be remade or whatever, for whatever reason. And he was trying. He was one of the people who took a big pay cut to get all the original people back. But in the end, I don't even know if that was worth it. I mean, I guess it was. I don't really want any of those people to be voiced by anybody else, but when it's so phoned in at this point anyway, you might as well get somebody better to even do it. Okay, so David Hayter was trying, and there was a few lines where I'm like, okay, this is still pretty cheesy or whatever, but I think that was more up to the script direction. And Cam Clark was giving it his all. He sounded pretty similar to the original Liquid Snake, and of course when he's playing Master Miller, he's also was very similar on that role too, to the original, which was great. It sounded good. Whenever he was doing it, that was perfect. He was always good. But Snake he was a little bit off. He was fine. He was fine. Snake was fine. But the other ones were just awful. I guess like Raven was fine. Revolver Ocelot was okay. I mean, like he was better in the original too, I would say. But like, again, up to maybe some bad directing. Now they replaced the voice of Gray Fox, which I really like the original Gray Fox voice. He's barely got it in the game, but I will say the new voice actor for Gray Fox was all right. He was pretty good. He was okay in his role. The only things that are gripes that I have about him are the fact that like they gave him these stupid lines to say, like when Otacon like flees into the little closet thing, or what do you call that? Like a closet. Yeah, I don't know, like the metal closet thing. Anyway, when he flees into there, he's like, he can watch from his box office seat in there. And I'm just like, okay. And the original, he's like, fine, he can watch from in there then. Like, do we need that changed? Like, okay, so like in the Resident Evil remake, these were like the two most infamous things to me at the time. And this is why I didn't want to play these remakes at the time. In the Resident Evil remake, they have like a few lines that they changed too, which is weird. Like, Jill Sandwich, you're almost a Jill Sandwich. They're like, you would have fit nicely into a sandwich. It's like, it didn't make any sense. Like, why would Barry say... Barry wouldn't say that. He would say Jill Sandwich. That's Barry. Barry doesn't say nicely fit into a sandwich. So it's like, I don't know what it was. Like, obviously Silicon Knights didn't make that one either. Or I don't know if they have the same voice direction actor or that director or whatever. To make them... But it felt very similar that these were both on the GameCube and that these remakes both had some like weird lines in replacement of like lines that weren't that weird to begin with. I guess like Jill Sandwich was weird, but it was funny. It was endearing, It was like the master of unlocking. That was the charm of the original. That's why. I mean, that's a whole other tangent. I could probably get it. I will get into that when I finally finish the remake. I finished it before. I played it on GameCube, but I've only ever finished it the one time on the GameCube. I have the remaster now. The HD with the Origins with the Zero and all that. So, and I played most of it. It's pretty good. It's just some of the voice stuff on that is some of the gameplay. It's very similar in this aspect, is that some of the gameplay stuff doesn't hold up. I mean, like, okay, that's a tangent. I gotta get off of that because I could just go on a whole tangent about Resident Evil. But anyway, so the voice acting in this is really awful for the most part. It's about half and half. But even Snake and I forgot to mention Otacon. Otacon is trying, and I know he's trying, but his direction was also not that great here. I could tell that he was trying, but he just didn't sound like Otacon to me. He sounded like I was hearing Christopher Randolph just recite his thing, like when he's talking about Hatsune Miku on his YouTube channel, or what's that app where you get people to like talk or whatever? Cameo, that's it. When he did the Hatsune Miku thing for Cameo, that's what he sounded like in the Twin Snakes. They just sounded like himself, Like David Hayter was probably the only one who actually sounded like his character, outside of maybe Revolver Ocelot, I would say, and he sounded just all right. He was okay. He was similar to the original, but not quite as good. But yeah, so they replaced Gray Fox's voice actor. I liked the original a lot. He's probably still my preferred one, but the new actor did a good job outside of some of the lines, but that wasn't his fault, kind of thing. I believe, anyway. So, Psycho Mantis, still really on par. He's still really good, I would say. I'd say he was still pretty good. He was still good. Meryl's voice actress did pretty good, I would say, at revising her lines. It's just... The problem is, when you get down to it, the cutscenes and the codec conversations are some of the most important bits of Metal Gear Solid, to me. And and the fact that they just auditorily, we're just talking about audio at this point. I'm not even talking about the ridiculous Matrix shit that they put in the cutscenes. I'll talk about that in a minute. Just it's fucking insane how much the audio of this game, of Metal Gear Solid, the original, made the difference for the game to feel as big as it is. You don't realize how many parts had to come together for Metal Gear Solid to be the coolest game ever until you've played something where they remade it and changed all of that. The voice acting was perfect in the original. Like it was just perfect. I know it's cheesy and it's old and like maybe some people could argue that, but until you've played the Twin Snakes, you don't realize how good you had it with the original game. It's perfect. You can't remake that voice acting. And if you want to remake that voice acting, just put the old voice acting into the new game. I would have honestly preferred that. I was thinking the whole game, like, I wish I could just take all of the old voice acting and put it into this game engine so I have a more enjoyable experience. With, like, I would still have the cheesy cutscenes, but and the old music and stuff, and that would have been better to me. Maybe not perfect. It still would have been perfect, but it would have been better to me in that regard because the original voice acting is perfect in a sense. For the time, especially for what they were working with, for what the era was like then. The only other solid evidence of voice acting in that era was Resident Evil. I've already harped on about how that wasn't the best. It was still good. I still liked the Resident Evil voice acting, but I like it because it was cheesy. This Metal Gear Solid 1 was legitimate voice acting. This was good shit, This was really good stuff. So yeah, just that one aspect, the voice acting, was such a key part. And all of the parts are key. This is what I'm getting at here, is that every piece of Metal Gear Solid 1 is key to the experience of Metal Gear Solid 1. The Twin Snakes trying to remake this stuff fails at remaking this stuff because you can't remake it without just doing it the exact same. And they tried to do it the exact same, and they couldn't. That's what I'm saying, is like it was just still so impossible to do it the same. And they weren't even like, they were trying to change a few things here and there, and some of the dialogue that they changed was okay, but it was always unnecessary. At the end of the day, even if it clarified things a little bit more, it was always unnecessary. And even so, they added things that were just felt like not good. They were bad. Some of the things that they added, just a few of them were bad. I will give them credit that most of the stuff that they added, aside from like your watch from their box office seat or whatever, were fine, and they were serviceable. They didn't add or detract from the experience. They were completely neutral for me. So the voice acting, clearly the original is better, right? And this one felt a little phoned in. Not a little. It felt phoned in. Let's just be honest here. It felt phoned in. So that one aspect already detracts from the entire thing. I started skipping codec conversations and cutscenes because I'm like, I don't need to listen to this in the bad acting, and I already know all these cutscenes and stuff. I started skipping them. I skipped like a lot of it because it's just, I didn't care. I lost a lot of interest near the end. So aside from that one little aspect, which is, it's not a little aspect, it's a big aspect, is this voice acting, which was perfect in the original, and this game felt phoned in. That's just one thing. And that already could have ruined the game for me. And just made it feel like, this isn't a worthy remake to Metal Gear Solid. But the problem is, there's more than that. Everything in Metal Gear Solid is important. Unlike a lot of games where the soundtracks is just like kind of forgettable or something. Let's talk about the soundtrack. I did that a little bit, but the Metal Gear Solid 1 soundtrack is iconic. You have The Best Is Yet to Come, which is always like in the heartfelt scenes. Otherwise, it's Enclosure, which made no appearance in this game. Which, so like if you played this and then you played 4, and they're like, they're doing the whole enclosure thing again, but they're like doing a bigger version of it in one of the scenes in 4. I won't spoil that for you since it's still like a 10-year-old game, but I would rather not spoil 4. I could spoil 1 for you. I didn't even spoil 2 for you yet, or I probably won't, but you had your time with 1. It's like 20 something years old. Anyway, it's still worth playing, even if I spoil it for you, I would say. So, it's one of the rare games where it's still worth playing if you're spoiled for it. Okay, so the music. So, you Enclosure plays when like Sniper Wolf dies and stuff, and it's a really powerful scene because of that music. But when you replace it with generic music and generic voice acting, it just feels wrong and bad. And I will fully admit that I'm probably like 127,000% biased here because I have such a nostalgic connection to the first game. But I would argue you don't even have to have a nostalgic connection to the first game for it to still be a good experience. I am nostalgic for it, but I can put those things aside to like look at a game and be like, is this still good or not? And in this case, the game just actually still holds up. And it's remarkable how well it holds up for a PlayStation 1 game. And that's what I'm getting at here, is that even when 5 years later, when you remake it for the Gamecube and it looks better and it's supposed to sound better and all this stuff, even if they would have done a better job with it, I don't think it could have held up to the original. But so the soundtrack, so you got like the encounter music might have been the same. I don't remember if that was true or not. I'm trying to think I know they have the briefing in here. That was the other. I keep getting sidetracked. I'm sorry. I know they have the briefings in here, and I didn't watch those yet. But I was wondering, do they have the VR missions in here? Do they have all the VR missions in here? Or is it just the 20 VR missions? Or do they even have VR missions in here? I'm legitimately curious to know. Comment below if you know if they had the VR missions from the first game in here. Even if they're just the 20 or however many they had. Are there any extras here? I don't know. The back of the box doesn't say anything, so it's just talking about the storyline and stuff. So yeah. So, so the music wasn't very good because they just replaced it with all this generic stuff. So that's another aspect of the game that, you take out the voice acting and you replace it with generic voice acting. And then you take out the music, which is another big part of those cutscenes, and you replace it with generic music. And it becomes even less impactful as the original. You have all these moments in the original that are really impactful, like Sniper Wolf dying, or the scene where Meryl dies. I think they did that all right. That's one of the endings. They did that all right here, for the most part, but it just, without the music, it doesn't feel as impactful. And there's not like the callback to the Sniper Wolf moment, so you kind of realize the parallels between Otacon and Meryl, between Wolf and Meryl, and the love that Otacon had for Wolf, and the love that Snake has for Meryl, etc., that kind of stuff. You don't see those parallels as much if you don't have the meaningful music, to connect those things for you. So, yeah, it makes things just feel less grand and less epic, because if you don't have the music, it's barely Metal Gear Solid at that point. You don't have the voice acting, it just detracts at another thing, another peg, and then it's like, so you take all that out. Like, if they'd made like some different music that I actually kind of felt right for this scenario, like, I maybe could have forgiven it, and the voice acting would have probably been the more crucial thing there. I'm just saying that the music is a big integral part to this. It expresses emotions, and it helps you really dive into these moments where characters are just doing this the whole time, or just working or shaking their head, like that. Like, yeah, so now they can like look at each other and stuff, and but like, so the cutscenes then. Let's get into those. Like, they're ridiculous. They're fucking ridiculous. They're like Matrix. They do like the Matrix like all the time. It's like, it's so ridiculous. The original had this one moment where Snake, like, Revolver also like shoots his boom, and then you see Snake like he like jumps back to like avoid the bullet or whatever, and that's like as much quick time like bullet hell shit that you're gonna get, you know. But in this game, Snake is just fucking. It is the most ridiculous shit how he avoids bullets, and he's just like in the air in slow motion and shit. It's so ridiculous. And like, okay, like a few times, like like when Gray Fox, yeah, it's always Snake. It's always Snake that's the stupidest parts. When Gray Fox comes and helps out in the Metal Gear fight, at the very end, you know, when he comes and helps out with that, that was actually a little bit better choreographed maybe than the original. And the original was fine, but they had the technology now to make Gray Fox jump around and be a little bit more ninja-like, which was cool. And that's maybe the one significantly good change. You know, like, it wasn't bad in the original. It was great, and it was fine. But that's like the one thing that might legitimately be better is like these few scenes with Gray Fox and his graphed stuff. Maybe. And that's it. And that's pretty much it. You know, the thing is, like, everyone is supposed to look better, right? Like, graphically or whatever. But, and technically, like, graphically they are, sure. But I don't know if I think that this game actually looks better than Metal Gear Solid 1. Just because, okay, like the lighting and stuff. Some of the lighting stuff was good. Like, you know, like I was talking about on top of Rex and stuff. That's good. I think they lightened up the tunnels, the air ducts a little bit better. Fun fact. I guess I'm just an idiot. This is like my favorite game, and I still didn't know this after all of these years. I still didn't even know you could use the stun grenades on the dogs. I should have figured that out years ago, too. My friend's like, let's use stun grenades. Let's not even shoot them or just run by them. Let's just use stun grenades. I'm like, I don't know if that's going to work. I think that's only for human enemies. And it works! It's like, it's probably the way you were supposed to do it all these years. I was just ran by them or shot them or something. I always felt really bad. I have to shoot dogs, and then they like get back up and shit. But it's like, you just use stun grenades. That's it. That's all you had to do. Gray Fox, when you could just throw chaff grenades at him, and it'll just fall over and be like, because his suit's made of electronic stuff, and I'm just like, how did I never think of this? My friend Nick thought of that. I'm like, this is the coolest shit ever. Like, after 20-something years, I'm still learning things about Metal Gear Solid 1. I don't even think I've probably still seen all the cutscenes in the original, which, by the way, they've cut out significantly a lot of the extra content of cutscenes. Like, there's this scene where you go into the women's bathroom or whatever, and, like, if you call Mei Ling before you go to the last stall where Meryl is, you get this funny as shit thing where she's like, Snake, that's a ladies' bathroom. You can't go in there. And he's like, I saw Meryl come in here. And she's like, what are you, some kind of pervert or something? And they cut this all of this is cut out of Twin Snake. So you miss stuff like that, which is like just like Resident Evil, it's part of the charm of the original is this, like, you know, these stupid little cutscenes that are totally optional. It just, like, I didn't even know about that for the first, like, 10 years I played this, like, Metal Gear Solid 1. So yeah, so like stuff like that you're missing. So a lot of the charm of Metal Gear Solid gets just completely cut out for them trying to make the game more serious, for some reason, inexplicably, because they thought it didn't hold up 5 years later or something. It was really stupid. I don't know. I didn't even know why this game was made. They probably should have waited till like PS3 era to like remake this game. Even then, I don't know if they could have done it. You know, I don't know. I always say now I want a Metal Gear Solid 1 remake, but especially with Konami now, like, I know they couldn't do it. Like, it would be pretty cool to see in the 5 engine. I wanted to see Metal Gear 1 and 2 in the 5 engine as like extra content or just its own game, you know, like Metal Gear Origins or something. Like, that would have been amazing, but no, they didn't even do that. That wouldn't have even been that hard to do either. And they could have even, which would have been nice, is if they put Venom Snake as the big boss, like in the first game. Like, that would have been cool, and that would have like tied things together. That would have been the ultimate bridge. That would have been the final Metal Gear game I would have made. And you could have even called it Metal Gear 6, and I would have been fine with it. You know, but whatever. Totally off topic. Let's get back to Metal Gear Solid 1. So, what was I talking about? Let's see. Oh, so like some of the charm is lost. Like you lose some of those cutscenes because as soon as you walk into that bathroom, the cutscene just starts and Meryl's just there. She is in her underwear. I don't know if that was because I got there fast enough, but in some regard, I don't know if I could have not gotten there fast enough. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. Anyway, so yeah, so you take so you take out the music, you take out the voice acting, you take out the cutscenes because they get ridiculous. Like they're just way more ridiculous. Like there's this moment where you talk to the arms tech president. I know I won't go over all of them, but like this one just really is such an exemplary like. Okay, there's like two other ones I'll bring up, but we'll talk about that in a second. You're talking to the arms tech president, and you're like, what's Carol? What's Meryl's codec number? And he's like, oh, I forgot. And Snake's like, ah! And then he like pulls out his gun and like is ready to shoot the guy. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? This is the guy you're trying to save, Snake. Fucking get over it. And he's like, oh, it's on the back of the CD case or whatever. It's like, fuck you, Snake. What are you doing, you stupid asshole? Okay, and then there's of course, the infamous scene where Snake jumps off the rocket to like get a better shot at the Hind D. That's so stupid. That's the stupidest shit ever. And then when you first get to Metal Gear Rex, Snake like jumps at it or something and thinks that's gonna do something to it. Like somehow. It doesn't make any sense. Like some of these stupid shit that they added. Like it's just dumb, you know? Is it offensive? Like maybe to somebody like me who actually cares that much, but like I don't know. It's stupid. It's like, why the... Okay, so this has always been my criticism with this game. They'll keep stuff like that. They'll add in stuff like that. But they'll take out... You don't know, wait. They didn't even take any... Well, okay, they'll take out stuff like the... Are you some kind of pervert? You know, like that cutscene. All this extra, like, cheesy cutscenes. Kodak conversations that you can have. And they'll add stuff like the box office seat thing. You know, like... You can watch from his box office seat in there, but it's like the line didn't even need to be changed, and they changed it. It's almost the opposite of Resident Evil. I was gonna be like, it's just like Resident Evil. It's actually the opposite of Resident Evil. You know, in Resident Evil, how I was saying they changed like Jill sandwich and stuff, and they made it like lines that kind of sound more like lines that are like legitimate lines or something, but like. So they took out the cheese in that way, but like these are like they added the cheese, but like bad cheese. Like it just shows how much the original like charm and some of the just crazy stuff was like part of that original Metal Gear game. Was that, you know, you just kind of go with that stuff. It was just kind of that's what it was. You know, all these ridiculous codec conversations and stuff, which is cool. They're pretty much secrets if you want to go at it like that. I mean, who would think to call Mei Ling, unless you just call everyone at every moment in every part of the game? Even then you won't get it because there's stuff where like you can kill the crows and you can call people and they'll be like, why are you killing crows? You're a fucking asshole. And like Raven will mention it like, oh, you killed my friends, you fucking dick or whatever. And then like there's the part where and I didn't know about this for years either. I've never actually done this one, but I've seen it. If you stand where you fought Sniper Wolf and you shoot the little rats, it's kind of hard to do actually too. If you shoot the rats, I tried it in Twin Snakes. I don't think the cutscene is there anymore. But you shoot the rats, and then like they'll call you on the codec and be like, "We're not paying you to be a rat trap, Snake," and it's like this thing that nobody would ever think to do, you know, like ever. But it's in there. There's a cutscene mentioning the fact that you're a sadistic asshole for killing these rats. But the game doesn't even care that you're killing like these fucking, you know, like everyone in the game or whatever. Which they bring up at the end, of course. Liquid does. You enjoy all the killing, you know, like, so yeah, but it's just stuff like that. Oh, like, you know, obviously the mono TV bit isn't in here anymore. I don't know if you knew about that, but like the Hind D, when you're a Hind D fight, like you can call the Colonel and he'll be like, you know, like, I've got it. You got to listen through your speakers to like figure out where the Hind is or whatever. Even though you have your codec to like, or not your codec, your Soliton radar to like see where the thing is anyway. But it's like, you know, and there's like a million ways you can see this thing, but he's like, wait, if you're using a mono TV instead of a stereo TV, he'll be like, wait, you're using a mono TV? And then everyone's like talking and like Naomi's like, a mono TV? How can he do it, Colonel? I guess he's just gonna have to deal with it. And it's like, Colonel's like, Snake, there's more to life than just, there's more to being a good person than just having a good TV or whatever. Like everyone's like, a mono TV? It's, they don't have that here. You know, this isn't the game for that. They don't have that shit in here. So, and I know I'm just rambling about Metal Gear Solid 1, but it's like, stuff, so an aspect I didn't even realize was missing was the charm. So let's take that, we throw that out the window. We don't need that anymore. We're just gonna add a bunch of cheese that's gonna make people actively hate our game instead. So, okay, we'll throw that out the window. So the cutscenes, they're those are bad too. So we'll just throw those out the window. Which is surprising, because in the original game, it's just people doing this the whole time. They're just waving their heads. And it's just like, how is that interesting? But it is. It's very interesting. It's very engaging for some reason. I don't know how they did it on PS1, but they did it, man. They did it. They fucking did it. They did it. And here it just looks like shit. It just doesn't even look that great. Like, the environments look pretty cool, I guess, but the characters, the more realistic characters, just look kind of bad sometimes. I think Meryl looks fine. And I'm not saying that as like she's hot, because she is, but like, Meryl looks fine in this game. Like, she looks pretty good. Like, I would say maybe like Liquid Snake looks good. Maybe Solid Snake, but like a lot of the other characters just start looking ridiculous. Like Vulcan Raven, I think he looked better than the original, to be honest. That kind of thing. It's just, it's weird, man. It's weird how you can have a more graphically like awesome game, and then like there's things that don't look as good. You know, from a PlayStation game. It should look like shit, but it still looks really good in today's day and age. So, yeah. Like, so you take that out. You take the cutscenes out. And at this point, what do you have? You still have the gameplay, right? Well, even that is hit or miss. You can argue that the gameplay is better in one or the other. Like, I like the gameplay of the first, the original better, but I also like the gameplay of the remake in some regards. It's stupid in some regards, but it's also good in some regards. They made small changes here and there to make things a little bit easier and stuff, so it's like, it's kind of nice. For a remake, that's what you should have done. So that's more of a neutral for me. That's, there's not really one positive thing about the Twin Snakes, but I still like the game in some aspects. I like that it's basically Metal Gear Solid 1, but like, it's different, it's kind of a refreshing way to play that game, but at the same time, if you're looking to like experience the story and stuff again, it's not gonna do that for you. You're gonna be like, well, they really fucked up on this voice acting and stuff. They really fucked up on this music. I'm not getting all the same emotions here as I used to, and so it's very much an inferior game in that regard. Is that, you don't get the same experience overall because of all of the aspects adding up to not be as good, But, I mean, like, I guess I'll say, like, the boss fights and stuff might technically be better. Like, just because of the aiming and the camera controls and stuff. Like the first person stuff makes fights like the tank fight a lot different. I mean, it's not easier necessarily, but I mean, it's probably a little bit easier, but well, not really, because they compensate with the level design. But anyway, the tank fight, since you can like aim up and stuff now, you can like aim at the guard and just start shooting him and stuff. He takes less damage, but it's a viable way to win the fight, and you can win it non-lethally like that. So I mean, I guess that's kind of cool. You can do the whole game non-lethally now, which is cool. But yeah, so I mean, it's just it's not as good. That's the problem. Is that when you remake something, you're usually hoping to get a more quality product out of it, which funnily enough, rarely ever happens. So I don't know why people think remakes are actually good. But if sometimes if you take something that was kind of mediocre to begin with and then you remake it and like you actually do something good with it, that's a lot of the times like when you actually do like that actually works, or something bad, I guess sometimes can actually work. I don't know. Like it's hard to think of like a really really good remake. I mean, jog my memory here, people. If you know something, put it in the comments or whatever. But um, so yeah, I mean, it just doesn't hold up to the standards and the quality of the original game. It makes slight gameplay tweaks to be to make the gameplay a little bit better, but you sacrifice the whole story and the whole cutscenes and all of that, which is like a very grand part of Metal Gear Solid. It is what Metal Gear Solid is, but it's also the music and it's also the voice acting. All stuff you've sacrificed to make the 40% of the game, which is the gameplay, like maybe slightly better and slightly worse than a lot of other spots. So it's like, you know, that's the problem with the Twin Snakes, is that the original is always going to be king, because the game was just built so well that it's it's crazy because all the little pieces fit together. But this game is a game that wasn't like they didn't put all this effort like they did into the original. They took an engine from Metal Gear Solid 2 and they put this game inside of it, and they kind of expected that to work, and sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. So it's like a half and half kind of thing. But, the original is always going to be better in every regard. But this has a few things that are nice and a lot of stuff that isn't. So it's more of a curiosity thing. If you've played the original like a million times, if you want to play it in kind of a different way, this is your game. But also, it's like $60-$70, so like it's really not worth playing unless you have like a thing like I do where you can like hook up HDMI to your GameCube so it at least looks pretty decent. Because otherwise, like, it's really, you might as well just play the original again. But if you've played that so many times that you're curious about playing this, it's maybe worth playing. Maybe. It's up to you. You just gotta, it's an interesting experience because you get to see how well the original was put together. If you like the original game, you get to see how fucking good that game was, um, through the lens of a remake where they remade parts of it that weren't very good. You know what I'm saying? So like, the remake stuff wasn't very good. That's what I'm trying to say. Which, yeah, I've pretty much established at this point. So, I mean, I think that's basically it. The original is still great. It's still like a 10 out of 10, obviously. This game, I give it more like a 7. Maybe a 6.5. Probably like a 6.5. Just because all of these aspects are taken out. But it's still kind of enjoyable enough. I don't know. It's like, it's alright. It's okay. It's just okay. That's the thing. So, I mean, get that out of here. Play this. This is what you want. This is what you want right here. Is Metal Gear Solid 1 on PS1, and you spend a lot less on this. Like the physical, don't even get the physical copy. Throw that out. You got a PS3, just get the digital download copy, because that is more reliable, and the discs on here are infamous for like skipping in the cutscenes and stuff. So just get the PS3 digital version like I have and just play it through. It's great. Add the smoothing, add the full screen, and it looks brilliant. It's amazing. So, yeah. Anyways, this has been JZNES saying keep it classic and stick around for more reviews and underrated games, and sometimes, shitty games. But, I mean, I do, not shitty. Okay, alright, is it shit? No, it's not. But it's a fart. It's almost a shit, It's like that you have to take a shit, but you're sitting in public or something, and like you remember taking this, you remember fondly taking this shit earlier. You're like, yeah, that felt really good, you know, and that was really good. And I had a really good experience taking that shit that one time, and you know, the whole experience of that was good. And then you take this shit that's a remake of that shit, and it's like, nah, man, I don't know about this. It didn't have all the same pleasures of taking that other shit. I don't know. I'm going full ABGN on this. But anyway, get this out of here. Alright, JZNES saying, keep it classic, stick around for more reviews, underrated games, and I'll see you in the next one. JZ